I live for that. All right. So, good morning, everyone. Today's lecture topic, I'm going to move my computer down a little bit. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Take two. The Russian Revolution. All right, we have three things we're going to talk about today in a certain sense. We are going to start, and they're demarcated nicely. We're going to start with 1905. I was thinking about, should I go all the way back to 1613 and decided not to. And that's not a joke. 1613 is when the Romanov Dynasties founded out of a time of troubles in Russia at that time. And 300 years of Romanov rule is celebrated in 1913, right, on the eve of the First World War. So it's appropriate, but it would be too much of a rabbit hole. Suffice to say, 1905 is when two very important events with a lot of, forgive the repetition, but important events with a lot of import take place. Some monumental kind of paradigm shifting events take place in Russia. What exactly? Well, the revolution of 1905 and the Russo-Japanese War. I'm going to start with number two. The Russians, here's where I'll take you back a little bit further. The Russians in 1853 until 1856 fight a war known as the Crimean War around the Black Sea against the British and the French. And the Russians have this kind of Texas-like arrogance, feeling of self-importance, in some ways justified. But we're the largest geographical country in the world. Our empress is Catherine the Great, Peter the Great before her. We're both European and modernized. And also this tradition, Russian bear, all those kind of stereotypes. We're the best. The Crimean War of 1853 to 56 exposes the Russians as impotent, for lack of a better word, of kind of being, maybe a better colloquialism is all bark, no bite. They're really big. They look very scary. Maybe they're a paper tiger. Maybe the hype isn't what we'd like it to be. The substance doesn't match the style. We can keep going on with all these cliches. I think you get the point. The Russo-Japanese War is a very similar thing. Unfortunately, at this time, this is the time of social Darwinism. This is the time of just overt racism, where it wasn't considered socially inappropriate to have racist ideologies. And of course, sadly, a sad fact of this time, a lot of the Russians think we're Europeans and the Japanese are Asian. We're better than the Asians. You know, we're better as a race, all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth double, because not only are we a superior race, all these gross social Darwinistic ideas, but also we have better tech and we're Russia. We forgot already about the lessons of the Crimean War, and we were fighting the British and the French anyway. Come on, it wasn't fair, blah, 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 excuse after excuse. This is what we're going to do to really kind of cement our place, maybe kind of a coming out party in the modern world. I think you know where I'm going with this. The Japanese hand it to the Russians. The Japanese do the Crimean War again. Remember in this class, we said there was the threat of Redux of 1871. And if the German advance after the Battle of the Frontiers is not hardened and halted by the Battle of the Marne, it's going to be Franco-Prussian War all over again. This is Crimean War all over again in terms of national embarrassment. Well, 1905 though, you can say 1905 in itself is kind of, you hear this term in history sometimes, annus mirabilis, used for like 1989, miracle year. This is annus terribilis, terrible year. This is one of those terrible years in Russian history. Not only on the international stage are they embarrassed and shown pretty clearly that Meiji Restoration Japan that had been opened up to the Western world since the 1860s, they're really, really good. As no one would make this mistake today. The Japanese today are considered, you know, the best technicians, amazing at all kind of technological stuff, very advanced civilization. So no one can make that mistake again the Russians make here. But that bubble has burst. Oh, the Japanese are better than we thought, actually better than us. They kind of kick our butt. And on top of that, we're going to have revolts at home, domestic problems. My friends, please look down to 1A. We'll get right with it. The Russian Revolution 1905, Lenin would call it the Great Dress Rehearsal. For what? I think you know for what. For the Bolshevik Revolution that we'll talk about today, frame number C, directly above my head. October of 1917, the Great Dress Rehearsal. Well, one of the factors of 1905, we're going to talk about 1905 a little bit because it really is important, including with slides. Good morning, Dominic. I'm going to have a couple slides for you from 1905. There's an agrarian problem. Okay, first, what are the causes? What are the constituent parts of 1905? Please note this, even mentally, because a lot of the problems that are present now are going to rear their head again 12 years later, during the real annus terribilis of the February Revolution of 17 unto the big one, right? You can almost look like today, people listening at home and in class, this is the lecture of 3 revolutions in Russia, 1905 and then 217, February and the big one. There's an agrarian problem. The peasants had been emancipated in 1861 by the Tsar Alexander II. What were they called more famously? Not just peasants, but what? Serfs. Serfs, S-E-R-F-S. Basically, for all intents and purposes, a kind of slavery, a kind of indentured servitude. Serfdom was a kind of hallmark of feudal Europe. Oh, this is why the Europeans say the Russians are so backward, because they're still living in the Middle Ages. They have this feudal economic system when the world has long moved past that, the free market and Adam Smith's ideas. Alexander II had emancipated the serfs. Okay, in 1861, almost 2 years before the Emancipation Proclamation in America. Actually, 1 year. Lincoln promulgates that following the Battle of Antietam in September of 62. It's almost the exact same time. That seems good. However, the peasants were not given enough land to provide for their needs. And by 1903, they have like back taxes basically equivalent to 118 million rubles. Okay, they're freed, but the freedom actually proves to be kind of, once more, maybe this is the theme of today, a paper tiger, right? Oh, we're so big and tough. The battle comes. Oh, wait, we lost. Oh, freedom is so good. Yeah, freedom is good in theory, but if freedom is actually worse in practice than serfdom, was it even, I kind of want to go back to serfdom, some would say. Okay, and so you have different kind of uprisings. You don't have to know about this, but in Kharkov, Poltava in 1902, thousands of people come out and they fight in the streets, almost like pre-revolutionary scenes that we'll see here. Peasants are fighting landlords, fighting nobles. Rebellious fury that leads to extensive destruction of property, looting of noble homes before troops can come in and subdue people. These kind of revolts. Because the peasants are saying, look, I believe in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal. My family's dying, we're starving to death because we haven't been given any land. We're still kind of in this slavery. It's not working. Maybe the idea about Alexander II, tragically, God rest his soul. God rest all these people's souls. They're all dead. So let's all pray for them, and especially for the forgotten souls in purgatory who no one prays for. So all these people are dead. So we can pray for all of them. But he dies violently. Alexander II, the guy who dies, who in 61 emancipates serfs in March 13th of 1881, 20 years later. That's like the Russian 9/11 when he's assassinated. And that brings to the throne Alexander III, who is the father of our Tsar, Nicholas II. Okay, what about ethnicity? 1C. All right, what about 1C? Well, there's a lot of ethnic problems in Russia. It's a multi-ethnic empire, a la what? Like, where do you know it's a multi-ethnic empire? Like America, right? It's kind of big melting pot kind of idea. I love this. This is awesome. Wherever you come from, doesn't matter. You can all be, there is no skin color or language of an American or culture. We're all, in it together. That's the best of that narrative. The worst is everyone hates everyone and goes to their little clique and tribe, and I hate that person. Even like, oh, we're all Catholics. I don't care. They're Italians and I'm Irish. I hate the Italian. Like, those things can be very, very good or very, very explosive. In Russia, they're very, very explosive. And you add into the fact of, for the Jewish population of Russia, this is where the idea of beyond the pale comes from, the settlement of the pale. Jews are forced to settle in the western part of the country. There's persecutions, later Jewish pogroms. There's a lot of ethnic infighting, a lot of problems. Russia cannot be said to be living the American dream, that there's some kind of society where everyone gets along. No, not really at all. Right? The Poles hate the Russians. The Russians hate the Poles. Everyone seems to be persecuting the Jews. The Jews are mad at everyone. You have Ukrainians, like people are not getting along. It's not a happy ethnic marriage. There's also a labor problem. And you can say a labor problem connects to 1B, the agrarian problem, of course, right? This man, Sergei Witte, W-I-T-T-E, in the 1890s, he has this program that's going to promote industrialization. His policies included heavy government subsidies, government expenditures, funding for railroads, different like public services, really kind of trying to stimulate domestic manufacturing. That's good. Guys, I'm not an economist, but I will tell you an economic golden rule. A country's health is often tied to the strength of its domestic manufacturing. Why was America so boss in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like just speak on an economic level? Because we had Detroit. We made our own cars, our own stuff. A person working in a factory in Detroit can make $90,000 a year. It's awesome. Why are we so, it's just a bad state now with the supply chain crisis and those ships out in the sea, which I don't know if everyone knows this, it's been going on for weeks or months now, is because all of our stuff is made in China. Why are they owning us? Because they own all of our debt, because they have good domestic manufacturing. Of course, a lot of like human rights abuses and terrible things, which I'm never trying to downplay, but they make things. The countries that make things win, right? If you don't, like us, we get our avocados and our berries from Mexico and our plastics from China. That's really bad because those people decide we're going to turn that off. What are we going to do, right? The only thing that I think Americans make really now is like soybean and lentil or something. Like we get our corn from abroad. I think it's bad. It's very, very bad. I remember when I was at the University of Illinois, we went to go watch a basketball game. The Illinois Fighting Illini against the Iowa Hawkeyes. And one side was our corn is better than yours. It's like good. Like start doing more farming. Let's encourage. Like that's great. Let's have that rivalry. If that can actually be a sign in a basketball game, the frat guys, because our farming and our domestic stuff is so strong. So he's trying to encourage this, and he has high protective tariffs. Okay, protective tariffs are encouraging domestic manufacturing, penalizing it, taxing people for importing stuff, right? Protecting the economy. This works great. This is the 1890s. Russian industrial growth averages 8% a year. It's very good. Railroad mileage grew from a very substantial base up by 40%, grows by 40% between 1892 and 1902. This is the building of the Trans-Siberian Railway. This is awesome. However, ironically, his success in implementing these programs helps spur the revolutions because they exacerbate social tension. While his programs, and it's good for domestic manufacturing, who is he also enriching? The kind of oligarch factory workers who now maybe will even mistreat their workers more because, hey, buddy, I want to go full Manchester, England. And yeah, you have to work 20 hours a day in the factory. I don't care. We want more money. So his programs are helping the economy. They're exacerbating the labor tensions, maybe having a seedbed for Marxist ideas. At the start of the 20th century, Russian industrial workers average an 11-hour day. Okay, that's pretty brutal. 10 hours on Saturday. So 11 times 5, 55, 10 on Saturday, 65 hours a week. So if you tell me you're working, I'm working full time, 40 hours a week. Yeah, I had 25 hours out of that. That's a lot, right?
It wasn't until 1939 that the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff comes out of these are good, I would say good New Deal programs of the FDR administration, right? I mean, especially talking about the ultimate like safety net, like Social Security is an FDR thing, 30th and 35. Right. So I'm not trying to single out Russia that only here. This is why socialism is so popular the world over, that in America included, because the factory conditions were so bad. People were like, anything is better than this. And a lot of the socialists were the first people to advocate for an 8-hour workday and free weekends and weekends off, which today are like, that's Trish, run for office and be like, I want people to work on Saturdays. I want to abolish the weekend. See if you get one vote. Right? These are things that are no longer liberal or conservative. Everyone believes, yeah, we should have weekends off, right? No one's like, no, we need to get, we need to increase productivity, work on Saturdays. Yeah, you're fired, buddy. Like you have no shot. Like your campaign's over. Speaking of Washington Post and the gubernatorial election, Glenn Youngkin versus Terry McAuliffe, Youngkin, the Republican won. Yeah, McAuliffe really stepped in it when he's like, I think parents should not have any say when schools teach them. That'd be equivalent to like saying like you should work on the weekends. Like say that you're just done. Yeah, you're cooked. You're done. All right. So the narrative of 1905. 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4, 2-5, 2-6. What's 2-1? Well, by January of 1905, the city has no electricity. Okay. All right. There's no punchline. That is the punchline. No electricity. It's the dead of winter. It's freezing cold. We're already angry with all these problems that they were building up to 1905.
Would you say that again? Where was it?
In St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. St. Petersburg is the place, guys. Moscow is like, I'm not trying to say it's irrelevant, but Moscow is like, even I have this one student, a mutual student that Kate and I have at WSU, and she's a Russian girl, and she was talking to Kate, and she was like, me and Kate were saying that we'd like to go to Russia sometime, we've never been. And she's like, oh, go to St. Petersburg, but never go to Moscow. Like Moscow sucks. Like I was in Moscow, and my mom and I made a wrong turn like down the street to go to like a department store. It took us 3 hours to make the turn back. Traffic so bad. She's like, yeah, Moscow sucks. Like it's busy and smog. But St. Petersburg is amazing. Go, yeah. Like St. Petersburg is like where it's at. I still want to go to Moscow. Moscow's awesome, I would think. But St. Petersburg is like the jewel, clean, like Paris of Russia. And it's where a lot of these social tensions take place, and where all this stuff we're talking about today is going to take place. It's the capital. So it's where the Winter Palace, where the Tsar, where everyone's at. Moscow is seen as like the old Russia, whatever. It'd be kind of like today. This is gonna be a great comparison, really. I'm proud of myself. What's the first capital of Idaho? It was Lewiston, right? Lewiston is like, wow, right? Cool, Lewiston, no, all right? Everything's about Boise. That's kind of what it was. But Lewiston is still the traditional capital of the Idaho territory, right? Or even like, I think Idaho City was way back. But if today you're like, let's have a place that's the most poppin' place in Idaho, this conference. No one's like, yeah, Lewiston over Boise. Wow, right? No. And so the same way, like you can still give props to Lewiston. It's a very important port city, right? It's really cool. It's a really cool city, beautiful city, but it's kind of like old. It's the old Idaho. It's Idaho before Idaho was cool. Like new, cool, poppin' Idaho's Boise, Treasure Valley. That's kind of what was St. Petersburg and Moscow, that transition.
Yeah, but arguably, Boise is so cool, in your opinion, because, it's the capital and everything was drawn.
Right.
So it's chicken and egg, maybe.
Yeah, what came first? Sure, that's fair. Sure.
Lewiston could be cool.
Lewiston could be cool again. Probably not though.
No.
The big thing I want to talk about, the big problem in 1905 is Father Gregory Gapon and Bloody Sunday. This Orthodox priest Gapon, G-A-P-O-N, leads about many thousands of protesters on the Winter Palace, saying we want bread. Father Tsar, feed us. And about 1,000 people get killed. Troops fire on them. Actually, 200 to 1,000 deaths. You know, the troops open fire on demonstrators. This is once more Nicholas II, who's a really good guy, a kind of cluster, fill in your favorite expletive part of his thing. This wasn't intentional. He definitely, I'm not trying to absolve him, make him some saint, but he definitely did not, or I think he didn't know this even happened. He didn't tell people to fire on the crowd. It just got out of hand. Maybe someone tried to grab a gun or something like that, but it becomes this total disaster moment. You have strikes all over the cities, all these things, taking you through really fast. Again, Dominic, you can hear this, but we have to be out of here in 39 minutes. Be done at 9:30 if we get to go through pretty fast. By the end of January 1905, you have 400,000 workers on strike in Russian Poland. Okay, you have different terrorist groups. This is our like 2324. One of them, Revolutionary Myślcie, the Revolutionary Avengers, which is this kind of Polish Black Hand group. Remember the Black Hand, the real concept. So this phenomenon too, these like terrorist groups below the surface trying to assassinate important leaders. By 1905, guys, this is even crazier than what I just told you. 400,000 workers in Russia, Poland. By 1905, the middle of this, like late January, it's picking up. Half of European Russia's industrial workers, the European part, the western part of Russia, are on strike. 93% in Poland. Everyone is striking. They're just not working. So added on to electricity not working, no bread. The Tsar fires on his protesters. That's not true. That's kind of like the press. And on top of it, my group of people, my ivory tower people, in March, all higher academic institutions were forcibly closed, adding radical students to striking workers. So imagine scenes of like 2020 and protests, all that kind of angst we're fighting the streets. Now you add the students in who are the dumbest and the most radical, right? Like they're the ones who have no life experience. I read in a book somewhere, power to the people, that kind of stuff. Like I'm gonna try to grab this soldier's gun. Let's see what happens. Like these people that are all like, I'm trying to mock them. Like maybe have their heart in the right place, but no head whatsoever. They're gonna add some kind of problematic stuff. You have really bad scenes developing. Well, Tsar Nicholas is going to try to, and on top of it too, the naval mutiny of the famous battleship Potemkin, which is a very, very silent movie as well. What's it called? It happens this time as well. When the soldiers surrender to the authorities eventually, some people claim that over 2,000 sailors are killed in the suppression. So I mean, there's People of the armed forces of Russia are being killed, peasants are being killed, no one can eat, everyone's on strike, no bread. Do you understand why this is a revolution? I don't think that, and then dumb students are falling into, on top, stirring the pot, on top of all their slogans and all this kind of stuff. 3, Nicholas II, the Duma. Nicholas agrees to create a state Duma. What is a Duma? It is a kind of a parliament, House of Representatives, Congress, whatever. House of Lords and Commons. Sick with shame at this betrayal of the dynasty, the betrayal was complete, he says. What betrayal is complete? My friends, prior to this revolution, Nicholas II has absolute power. If Becca Schmidt is the queen, the empress of Russia, anything she says, no question, no matter what it is, even if she's like actually crazy and it's a terrible idea, it has to be done. It's a law. Her word is law, ruled by fiat. This is what changes that. Nicholas goes from being 100% autocrat to 98. He's still by far the most powerful man in the world, the most unrestrained power, but this is the first chink in that armor. Russian liberals are satisfied by the October manifesto that he issues, which prepares his Duma. Of course, radical socialists and revolutionaries denounce them and call for an armed uprising. That's why Lenin called it the Great Dress Rehearsal. It's not good. All right. 1917, February Revolution. So skip 12 years ahead. Remember, keep in mind a lot of the exact same stuff that we were saying here, right? 1905, exact same stuff is going to happen. But what do you have to add in here? Excuse me, 1917. What do you have to add in, my friends, from this class by February 1917? What do you know that is different from 1905?
Well, the war has begun and they are in battle on their western border.
Perfect. Perfect. The war has not just begun, it's well underway, like you said. In battle on the Western Front is an understatement. The Brusilov offensive of the previous summer of 1916 that we covered, despite being so successful, remember, it kills about 1 million people. Who just died in gruesome fashion, scandal in December of 16, Rasputin, right? Remember that in his prophecy and all that kind of stuff. All of this is going on, and Nicholas has been in charge of the army since 1915. Yeah, the war is really reaching a breaking point here for the Russian people. The protests began on March 8th. Why is it called the February Revolution then? Someone help me out.
I heard that like the Russian calendar is like shifted off.
13 days behind. March 8th of our calendar, which all people after the revolution, the Bolsheviks switched to the calendar. They used to use the Julian calendar, right? Just 13 days behind. That's why the October Revolution, right, happens in November. That's why the February Revolution happens in March, of real time, what we would call in the West. I'm going to use the Western dates here. Okay, so it begins on March 8th, but it really, in their calendar there, it begins February 23rd. That's what's really weird. It's something to do with like not counting for leap year or something weird, the Gregorian versus the Julian, but yeah, they use the old style. Russians are weird in every possible way. I mean, that is like, it's very attractive, very romantic, but super weird, Greek-based alphabet. They're Catholics, but Orthodox, always but with Russia, right? They're like Texas, but they also have the freaking frozen tundra. Like, there's always something about the Russians that's very like attractive and strange. And they had a calendar that was 13 days long.
So they really were living in the past.
They were, yeah, literally. They literally stuck in the past, yeah. Ha ha ha. Yes, though. Yeah, right. That's right. Due to heavy snowstorms, tens of thousands of freight cars are stuck on tracks. Can't bring fuel into the city. Sounds like a supply chain problem. Sounds like something we don't know. And that's indeed, I have snow, strikes, and Women's Day. Heavy snowstorms, lots of strikes, 50,000 workers kind of immediately. By March 9th, 200,000 protesters are in the streets. Sounds like 1905, right? Demanding the replacement of the Tsar with a more progressive political leader. Oh, this is new though. That's new. In 1905, no one was calling for the abdication of the Tsar, except the crazy Bolsheviks. This is new. This is scary. The protesting mob calls for the war to end, the Russian monarchy to be overthrown. March 8th was International Women's Day. And I thought this was an anachronism. Oh, this is something like feminist invented later. It was around 1908, I think. So already women were out in the streets with men, and this just adds to the crush of the crowd. Everyone is out there. Even some of the women who at this time would be working in the domestic sphere at home. Obviously, this is long before, the idea of the woman business leader. I don't have to explain this to you, duh. But a lot of these women who be at home they are also on the streets to celebrate women. Everything is a perfect storm of all this stuff. The Tsar takes action. He addresses the riots on November 10th, and he orders his general, Sergei Semyonovich Kabalov, to disperse the crowds if necessary with rifle fire, right? That's that as well. That's the bad thing. On March 11th, 5-3, Chairman Duma telegram. The chairman of the Duma writes this to Nicholas. March 11th, his name is Mikhail Rodjanko. Quote, the situation is serious. The capital is in a state of anarchy. The government is paralyzed. Transport service and supply of food and fuel become completely disrupted. General discontent is growing. There must be no delay. Any procrastination is tantamount to death. Well, Nicholas responds to Rodjanko this way, okay? He writes to Alexandra, who's back in the capital, sans Rasputin because he's dead, but he's away at the front. Nicholas says, Alexander's there. Again, this fat Rodjanko has written me lots of nonsense, to which I should not even deign to reply. Right? So he insults Rodjanko, he's this fat, stupid general, blah, 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 blah. Not good, Nicholas. Bad optics, man. Like the whole thing's about to crash down. You're like, he's this fat idiot guy, he's probably just on Netflix tweeting the whole time. Like, why am I going to reply to him? Oh, right. Well, that day, November 12th, the bulk of the garrison mutinies. The crowd is chanting at one point, join us, join us, join us. They do. You know, like they come down the shoulders, this is over at this point. And indeed, on the Ides of March, what is that famous for? Of course, you know, 44 BC when Julius Caesar is assassinated. And you also, Brutus, you know, in the Roman Senate. On March 15th, 1917, very historical date. Western calendar. This is this would be March 1st, I believe, March 2nd in the old calendar. Yes. Oh, there it is. I have it here. On March 2nd, the old calendar. Nicholas abdicates the throne. The Romanov Dynasty is over. That what I started with the class with, going back to 1613. Now it's over. 304 years over. And Nicholas abdicates for himself and his son. So what happens? Well, let's continue. Let's get it. Let's do it. Let's go big. Go big or go home. Do large or don't do anything at all. The best or nothing. BMW engineering. Let's talk about the October Revolution. In April 1917. Now, my friends, we're now on the third slide, fully the third slide, which says, for people who can't read the screen, it's very dark outside. It's raining today in Moscow, Idaho. So all the more so. I'm going to read you verbatim what I have written on the board in red ink. 1917, underlined the quote, October Revolution, recounting in full, if albeit briefly, that which will equal CCCP 1922-1921 Cold War. What does CCCP stand for? You know, I wanted to be cute with this, just a Cyrillic USSR. This will create this Bolshevik revolution that begins in October of 1917, November of 1917. Well, 5 years later, after a bloody civil war between whites and reds and all kinds of infighting, it doesn't happen overnight, but we'll create the USSR and create our reality that if you were born, I was born, like I said, in 1987. I don't remember the Cold War, but I was born when there was a Soviet Union on the face of the earth, right? And a lot of us were. This event, so I'm reaching out, creates this. Vladimir Lenin, we told you about him before. He was, he'd been exiled. He was living in Switzerland. Remember, he has that Zimmerwald conference in Switzerland. And he's getting kind of no traction. Remember what Winston Churchill said about what the Germans do. What do the Germans do? That's what I'm about to talk to you right now. What do the Germans do? Put your World War I caps back on. Step away from Russia. What do the Germans do? And what does Churchill say about it? Remember? The Germans, they're trying to win the war in the East. Remember, go back to your war chronology. I love this class so much because there's so much information, but the negative side is we haven't talked about war chronology for a while, like 2 weeks. You might have forgotten. Remember, at the end of 1916, early 17, the Germans are winning the war everywhere, but they can't break out in Jutland. They can't get out in the North Sea. The submarine warfare is going bad. The Americans are coming soon. The Western Front is hardened. And they keep winning on the East, but the pesky Russians have like a Brusilov offensive that's pushing them back. It's just, we need a breakthrough. The Germans put Lenin in a sealed car and sent him back to Russia, arranged for his transport, because they want to happen what happens. So Winston Churchill famously described it being like putting cholera in the water supply of a city. And you're the neighboring city. And oh, wait a second, maybe that contagion will spread to us. And it will. Thank you, Germans, for poisoning the well of the world. Thank you, Germans, for creating, the Germans actually are probably at fault for creating the Cold War, because they allowed Lenin to leave and do what he would do. Lenin was a very talented man, an amazing orator, of whom Bishop Fulton J. Sheen said, Lenin, be hot or cold, otherwise I will spit you out of my mouth. Don't be lukewarm. Lenin was very cold. Fulton J. Sheen said if Lenin was like a devout Catholic, he would have been a new St. Francis of Assisi. Like he was an amazing connecting with people, getting people excited about stuff, movement. He was very good. Unfortunately, he was on the bad guy team.
What year was that they sent him back?
Now, April 1917. This is
And
him.
why, or is that what you're gonna, why did they?
Why did they send him back?
Yeah.
Because they're like, he's gonna mess up the whole Russian, he's gonna collapse Russia. It's a good idea in theory. We Germans want Lenin to go back and start a revolution. We don't know what's gonna be this, but just do something, exacerbate these tensions and force Russia to quit the war and sign a peace treaty with us. If Russia gets blown up by domestic problems, if Lenin can create that for us, be like an unofficial agent by doing his revolution, that'll take Russia out of the war, Eastern Front over, we can just focus on the West. And that's what happens. The Germans get the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which I'll talk about in a couple of weeks. They win in the East, so it works. The problem is it's like a contagion that it spreads all over the whole world. But you know, it's actually a very solid plan. Imagine you're in exile, and let's say Idaho is fighting a war against Washington, and you've been exiled from Washington, Moscow. I'm going to put you in a SEAL train and send you to Seattle, and that'll make the government fall. Like, and it works. Great, mission accomplished. But I didn't realize you hate me as much as you hate the government there. You want to come do that to me as well. Uh-oh, you know. And this is what happens in Afghanistan. We arm the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union, and then we're surprised when the Taliban use that against us. They also hate our guts as well, right? But the enemy is my enemy, that kind of thing. So that's the whole thing here. So let's see. April 3rd, a plan carefully developed by the German High Command in conjunction with the Foreign Office to use revolution as a weapon. April 3rd, 1917, like poison gas in the stalking submarine, by sending Lenin and a contingent of the Bolsheviks from their haven in Switzerland to Russia by sealed railway car, in the expectation they would help knock Russia out of the war. The original plan called for the trip to be made across Austrian territory, but Charles, our guy, blessed him from Karl, we're going to talk about him later in the class, a whole lecture about him, made known to Wilhelm personally his total opposition to this plan. Zita has reported his grounds for opposition as follows. Zita is the last Habsburg empress. She says, quote, "First, this was an unfair and irresponsible thing to do to the Russian people." Yeah, he's right. Second, that the more chaos was caused in Russia, the more difficult it would be to find anyone to talk peace with. Also right, 2 for 2. And third, that once communism got established in Russia, it wouldn't stop there, but would spread, and both Germany and Austria-Hungary could become engulfed. Evil, he was convinced, could only breed evil. Maybe this is why he's blessed Emperor Karl. He's a saint and insanely based. Yeah, stupid idea, Wilhelm. But Wilhelm is the guy who wasn't known for bright ideas as well, right? Sorry, no offense to Wilhelm. Lenin is sent in. Let's see. His attitude, Lenin, this is his attitude as he boards the train car to go to Russia. His attitude was summed up in a telegram to Marxists in Sweden on March 19th. Our tactic, absolute distrust, no support for the new government. Above all, we are suspicious of Kerensky. You'll learn about Kerensky in the coming classes, that he's offensive. He's the guy who becomes like the George Washington character, the first democratic president of Russia. He lasts a couple months. He's obviously obliterated by what happens in October. The proletariat is the sole guarantee, immediate election of the Petrograd Duma, no reconciliation with other parties. Absolute distrust, no reconciliation. Yeah, that's Lenin. Lenin's playing for keeps. Okay, no, and we'll pretend like Becca Schmidt and her social democracy is fine, as long as Becca Schmidt can help us get rid of the Tsar, but once he's gone, she's gone too. Everyone's gone. Once Dave's done, Dave's like, once I take care of Seattle, I'm coming for Boise. Like, there's no compromise anymore. Lenin arrives on a platform where there's a detachment of soldiers, a Red Guard militia. It's April 16th, Russian Easter Monday. A national holiday too. He arrives at the Finland station in Petrograd. Petrograd is St. Petersburg, same city. Their band is playing the Marseillaise, the French revolutionary song. You're going to see a poster soon, pictures I'll show you. The Russians believe they're doing a new French revolution. The Petrograd Soviet had designated Nikolai Chetsky, a leading Menshevik Marxist and longtime opponent of Lenin, to deliver a welcome which will quickly become a warning. The principal task of the revolutionary democracy at present is to defend our revolution from every kind of attack from both within and without. We believe that what is needed is not disunity, but the closing of the ranks of the entire democracy. We hope you will pursue these aims together with us well. And Lenin extends 2 middle fingers. This guy immediately, not literally, but he's like, yeah, okay, buddy. We're on the same team, right, dude? Lenin just simply ignores his existence, this guy. He's like, get out of my way. People are here to see me. Dear comrades, Lenin speaking. Dear comrades, soldiers, sailors, and workers, I'm happy to greet you in your persons, the victorious Russian Revolution. It's already been won. It's talking about February, because Nicholas has abdicated a month earlier, right? I greet you as the vanguard. First, the advance guard, vanguard, first line. of the world proletarian army. The predatory imperialist war is the beginning of a civil war all over Europe. Any day now, we will see the collapse of European imperialism. The Russian Revolution you have made has prepared the way to open a new epoch. Long live the world socialist revolution. All right. He's constantly denouncing everyone in the war, capitalist robbers, who just pillaging the European people, exploiting people. I don't blame the Russian people for seeing this as like appealing, right? Again, Lenin he's one of the most evil characters in human history. God have mercy on him. He's terrible, but he has a very appealing message. There's no electricity. You can't get bread. I'm coming to bring you bread. We're going to take all the money. You're going to get money in farms, and we're going to have a utopia. That's an appealing message to people, right? Lenin is extremely popular. Think Donald Trump. The way like Donald Trump goes to like Talladega, and like people in the South chanting, MAGA, MAGA, like that. That's the kind of like almost cult personality level. And again, I love Trump. I hate Trump. I'm not going to tell you how I feel about Trump. It doesn't matter. I'm saying just that the popular adulation, cult-like following, like whatever this guy says, I'm going to do. The two best leaders, I'd say, of the two most cult-like leaders of the recent times, and I mean by that people are like in love with them, are Trump and Obama. If there's Obama supporters, like Obama's the greatest president ever, period. In every possible way. Like he's done nothing wrong ever. He's so amazing. And Trump too. We see on both the left and the right. That's the kind of following Lenin has. People love him. Like whatever he does, we're ready. Lenin knew this. No man in all history has known better how to take the fullest advantage of a fundamental political opportunity. Now, we're going to talk about October now. That's Lenin arriving. In between him arriving, guess what, guys? He has to go back to Finland. He's in hiding. There's a price on his head. Some of the more moderate people, like Becca Schmidt, they want to assassinate him. They're like, he's a terrible, evil guy. Like, he's playing for keeps. He doesn't want to play nice. He doesn't share toys with other kids in the kindergarten. He's all about just trying to do his own thing. He's crazy. Let's try him and execute him. Like, this is not, a lot of the political elite hate his guts. The common people, the farmers, who are the ones who we just talked about today. Look how this all kind of works together nice, right? In this lecture. We've talked about all the peasant revolts, all the fighting. They love him. They're like, this is our guy. We want this. I'm a peasant. I can't read. I don't know how to spell my own name. I don't know what Marxism means, but this guy says I'm going to get food, and the bad rich guys who are always assaulting my family are going to be dead and gone. Okay, I'm all on board. Where do I sign up, right? And a very simple stuff. Okay, October 16th, the Bolshevik Central Committee authorized Lenin's return to Petrograd. From where, Sophia? They authorized return to St. Petersburg. From where? Not from Switzerland. He was already in SEAL training. He arrived and did his speeches. Where do they bring him back from? From Finland, right across the board, right? This is, keep that in mind. Like St. Petersburg is seen as such a European city. It's literally on the border of Finland. It looks into Scandinavian countries. He has to go and hide out, they bring him back from Finland. And a few days later, he slipped back into the city's distinguished, but in the city disguised by a gray wig and large spectacles with his beard shaved off. One observer thought he looked like a Lutheran minister, another like an elderly music teacher, right? Always beware of music teachers. These are really bad, serious people. He starts organizing, he starts getting things ready. One by one, on October 22nd, he called a crucial meeting of the party central committee, and he starts getting people to agree to go full bonkers, whole hog. Like, we're gonna try to overthrow everything. The czar's gone. I hate the czar, Lenin would say, but he was legit authority. He was the czar. If he's gone, who the bleep, a million expletives is Alexander Kerensky, these guys. Oh, democracy in Russia, yeah, my butt. Like, no, right? So he's like saying, let's go, come on. We're not talking about overthrowing the czar now. We're talking about throwing these usurpers who themselves are a joke, blah, blah, blah. He gets a lot of people to sign on and agree. Guess who's at some of these people here? Name after name of that night assembly looms athwart the grim history of the 20th century like gigantic shadows cast by a flickering fire. Lenin, Trotsky, Stalin, all these guys are there. These big USSR figures are at this meeting. The meeting began at 10 o'clock. When Lenin arrived, it lasted more than 5 hours. Lenin relentlessly hammered down all questions, doubt, and indecision. Revolution now. Seize power now. Wait for nothing. Set a date. Delay is death. All right, right? The only people, it was 10-2 for revolution. Only Kamenev and Zinoviev, they vote against this. I mean, almost everyone's like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. When the meeting was over, Lenin made his way back from the deserted streets in the mist before dawn to his apartment. It was almost exactly the same hour that Rasputin had died at last, under the ice in Neva 10 months before. Now the crisis was truly right. Okay. Tuesday, the 6th of November, 1917, the last day of freedom and hope in this world. Wow, Warren Carroll. That's pretty big words. And this is written in 1981. This book is sick. Little I know that this book is going to be like our textbook this class. Back-to-back lectures. Warren Carroll, you're a stud, bro. I hope we can say Warren Carroll, pray for us. I hope he's the same. I think he's dead. If you're in purgatory, let's remember him, especially Thanksgiving for this awesome book, War Boss. The last day of freedom and hope in this world. For at least the greater part of 100 years has dawned in Earth's largest country. The skies are gray, rain falling, mud everywhere, blah, 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 more kind of like artistic. He's a great writer, actually. I'm joking. He's a beautiful writer. Alone in the windy night with their dark destiny, the two strode on, Lenin and one of his compatriots. One guard that night, arresting the totally unprotected Lenin, could perhaps have changed the whole course of history, but it was not to be. They rode on, they're let through, they move on to the city. And it's amazing to think, like Lenin's like, this is go hour, this is our big operation. When they arrive at the city, one guard, he's like, oh, you're Vladimir Lenin. Yeah, I have a notice here, Kraszewski wants you dead, or just shoots him himself. It's the great kind of like alternate history. What if someone just would have killed Hitler, kind of thing. Lenin was unprotected, he could have done it there, they don't let him pass through. Like one guy held history in his hands, didn't even know it. And he was like, oh, whatever, right? Okay, it was not to be. The morning November 7th broke a little grayer and a little colder than before. By 8 o'clock, Lenin knew he had won. Because what happens here? Well, already you see, let me read this first. It was the day of revolution now. Trotsky told Lenin the communist seizure of power will begin at 2 a.m. At that hour, the Nikolaevsky and the Baltic railroad stations, the telegraph offices were seized by the Red Guards. So first movement in this revolution, okay? The Red Guards, the communists, seized the railroad stations, the telegraph office. That's the first step in every revolution. You seize the transportation and seize the communication, okay? Along with the Tauride Palace and 2 ministers of provisional government. Sailors from the Aurora began taking control of the bridges across the Neva, the river, so we're shutting down the city, which had been guarded by military cadets loyal to the government. At dawn, the state bank and the central telephone exchanges were seized. We've seized the railroads, the communication, now we seize the money. A few shots were fired, but there were no casualties. Smolny Institute hummed on and roared with activity. The city slept. Kerensky, the guy, the president, call for help from the Doncaster regiments went unanswered. Okay. They were not interested at this point in taking either side. They were no friends of the Bolsheviks, but had no confidence whatsoever in Kerensky. A big reason why, we'll talk about it in the war chronology when we start at the beginning, is the Kerensky offensive. Kerensky takes over. Hey, dude, okay, you're going to end the war that everyone hates, right? No, we're going to have a new offensive where we all die again. So that is a thing that you've missed between April and October. I haven't talked about it yet. He sees, he's just like the Tsar. He's just sending people off to die in the war. He sucks. As they would tell him again and again, all they would tell him again and again was they were preparing to saddle their horses. Yeah, we're coming to help. Yeah, we're coming to help. Hurry, the city's on fire. We're coming up. The morning of November 7th broke a little grayer and a little colder than the day before, but by 8 o'clock, Lenin knew he had won. He penned a proclamation in his sharp racing handwriting that one scholar is likened to strings of barbed wire announcing victory. Listen, this is the last thing I'm going to read to you. Then look at the photos. To the citizens of Russia, the provisional government has been overthrown. State power has passed into the hands of the organ of the Petrograd Soviet, the military revolutionary committee which stands at the head of the Petrograd Proletariat and garrison. The cause for which the people have been fighting, very brilliant, right? Not our cause, not what we're doing, what you have been waiting for the whole time. You're the best, you're number one, right? The cause for which the people have been fighting. I'm nothing but a man of the people, right? The cause for which the people have been fighting, the immediate proposal of a democratic peace. Oh, that's very popular to get you out of the war. The abolition of landlords' ownership of land, sounds really good again. Workers' control over industry and the formation of a Soviet government, that cause is assured. Long live the workers, soldiers, and peasants' revolution. And brilliant, horrifying, awful, hate everything about this as a Catholic, as a person, amazing politician. Gosh, I wish we could have Lenin could have been on our team. Man, I wish he could have been a St. Francis. Sadly, he wasn't. Amazing organizer, a man of passion, very hot for his cause. Let's look at some photos. We'll come back. We're going to talk about Russia again. That's the gist of this. I'm very glad how I think it was very compact. I think we all kind of understand this. We'll come back to it later when we talk about Russia falling out of the war post-Kerensky offensive. We'll talk about, well, I'll be like, hey, remember November 4th when we stopped with Lenin's proclamation? What happens immediately after that? We'll come back to that later. Here's some photos I want to share with you. And then we'll quit for the day. Let me move this a little bit. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Check this out. All you people on Zoom, I'm gonna move you a little bit closer. Better view of the thing. There we go. That's good. All right, here we go. These are scenes from the February Revolution of 1905. Okay, it's 1905 first. But if you're like, this looks kind of indistinguishable, Cossacks, people in the thing, this thing here, that this communism, okay, this is 1905. You already have this idea in 1905, these radical people, you know, Lenin, Trotsky, they've been in clubs before they're exiled. There's a lot of this idea of like, I don't even know what that means, but it seems like it means power to the people. I like that. Like that very simplistic. You already see this. This looks like 1917. It's not. This is 1905. Here's news. What's it called? The reels of this. Of course, our favorite newspaper, the paper of record, Revolution in Russia, Tsar abdicates. Mikhail Mikhailovich, made regent empress in hiding. Okay, you see everything. She's probably in hiding because of that last post-semicolon, because she's German, right? Pro-German minister's been slain. Okay, it's getting out of hand. This is 1905. Remember? No, excuse me. I think why is that 1917? What is this? Oh, I'm an idiot. Guys, forgive me. Wow. Epic fail on my part. This is the right. What are you doing, dude? Gracjan, come on, man. Get your head screwed on straight. This is the last 1905 slide. My apologies to everyone on the thing, especially you, Bishop. I'm so sorry. It's first class U10 on Zoom, and I do this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. This is come on, right? Come on, rookie mistake. This is the last 1905 slide. Then we move to Nicholas's abdication, of course, which is in the Ides of March. As you see the date, March 16, 1917. Okay, here's the Russian news of that. Russkoye Slovo, the paper is the Russian word. Odfrechenie Nikolai II. On the right, there's the abdication of Nicholas II. Okay, look how cool the Russian alphabet is. That's how freaking sweet it is. That's sweet. Sophia, you want to see your name spelled in Russian? It'd be cool, right? Look, check it out. Okay, so just for you, okay? Sophia in Russian. Isn't that sweet? It's really freaking cool, right? It's really freaking sick with it. Okay. It is. Cyrillic alphabet is freaking amazing. I always say when I'm teaching a class on like Byzantium, it's like this is where it shows the two lungs of Europe, and the Roman Empire being in the West Rome and the East Constantinople, because our alphabet descends from Latin. Obviously, it's the Latin alphabet. But a lot of people can read Russian, even not being Russian, because they're like in a sorority or fraternity. I'm not even kidding. Like it descended from the Greek. Cyril and Methodius, those great brother evangelists. Cyril, the Cyrillic alphabet, he creates an alphabet for the Slavs based on the Greek that he spoke. So it's just Russian is just like edited Greek in a certain sense. Again, look at that. It's freaking, I want to eat that paper. It's delicious. It's amazing. Right? Last Romanov abdicates and Russia becomes a republic with Duma committee in charge. Okay, blah, blah, blah. You see all this. Now here's that's Vladimir Lenin. Now we've moved to the timeline. We're still in 1917, but to what we just talked about in October. Lenin again. Really, I can't underestimate. I know this picture like just show like, well, yeah, it seems like he's good at speaking. Really, I'm serious. I love rhetoric or oratory skills are cool. I guess a sign of intelligence. Like again, Becca runs for office and go to her speech and it's like electrifies the crowd. I want to support Becca because I support her ideas ostensibly, but like, oh, wow, she's an amazing speaker. She captures it's important. Versus like that guy sucks at talking. Like, why is he running you? Even if his ideas are good, it's important, right? Lenin had ideas that people wanted. They're horrifying ideas, I think, but he had ideas that people wanted, and he was amazing communicator. Like you would like sit like this, listen to it on the edge of your seat. I want more. Like, please, I want to binge watch your speeches, kind of thing. He was amazing at that. Who is this guy right here? Anyone know who that guy is?
Trotsky.
That's Leon Trotsky, right? There's Lenin again. Here's a poster. Here's a poster celebrating the last three parts of that phrase. The great proletariat revolution, right? And the problem, we have the same propaganda in America. Like they're, the Germans are so bad, we're so great. The problem with propaganda is, look, if you join this revolution, you're gonna be like this guy who can bench press 400 pounds 10 times. And he's like good looking and like women love him, men want to be him, you're a superhero. No, the reality though is you're probably gonna get shot against the wall. This is the problem with propaganda, right? You see this post like, I want to join this. Like the Uncle Sam poster, sign up and fight for your country. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna be a hero. The poster always shows you the best possible thing. You're gonna be out in the front carrying the flag and the hammer and the sickle. Yeah, you're probably gonna be crunched underfoot in one of the most evil revolutions of all time. but believe the poster, right? World War I really is such a breeding ground for propaganda. It's not, it's unreal. This is an amazing quality photo. Actually, not better, it looks better on my computer. Wow, actually, that's kind of pixelated. That's a fail. That one too, epic pixelation. These are all scenes from October 1917. Here's what's important. I was talking about before. Svoboda is freedom. Raviestvo is equality, equality, and braterstvo is brotherhood. Fraternity, liberté, égalité in French, right? The great slogan of the French Revolution. Fraternity, equality, liberty. This is like on the nose. This is like direct. Yeah, we want to do exactly what the French did in 1789, right? That poster is better quality. I'm gonna finish on that poster. This is the no, actually one. Okay, the self-explanatory, right? Here comes this massive, giant Russian people, right? Representing the will of the people, overthrowing the Tsar. Here's scenes from the Winter Palace, and this is the most poignant picture, I think. That I believe that picture of the Tsar, that's Alexander III. He's the father of Nicholas II. Yeah, this is kind of the most accurate photo, right? People come in just bayonet photos because that's what people do. Look at scenes of pick your most representative riot scene. What is it often? Whoever's rioting, whoever's rioting for whatever cause. Often, if it gets out of hand, burning stuff, fighting, and just Sophia, why did you set that chair on fire? Why not? Why did you bayonet that thing? Because down with everything, destroy everything. It becomes this demon. The idea of demons are in their kind of like act is just a rip and tear. As people talk about this as demonic, I mean, again believing in spiritual warfare, indeed, but also in the definition of the word. A lot of this is just demonic, it's just destroy everything for no reason, just to destroy it. Doesn't matter if what comes next is worse, just down with this, you rip it apart, we hate the Tsar. That's kind of what a lot of us do. I'll see you guys. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, amazing, awesome, cool, super awesome, super superlative weekend. See you next Tuesday.
You can